a revolutionary theory, or an elaborate work of fiction? In this episode, we explore the evidence. Join us as we separate fact from fantasy. In episode 7, we dive into the evidence. Prepare to uncover the truth behind the mystery.
All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are taking a deep dive into a really extraordinary set of documents. This is a formal submission package that was sent to the Clay Mathematics Institute by a group that calls themselves the Lord's Calendar Collaboration. And what's inside? Well, nothing less than a claimed solution to basically everything.
So, this quote you're seeing, this is the very first sentence of their submission letter. Just think about that for a second. There's no warm-up, no easing you in. They just come right out of the gate with one of the boldest claims you could possibly make in science. A single, unified framework that solves the 7 hardest problems in math. I mean, the ambition there is just off the charts.
So, these manuscripts didn't get approved for publication on places like Archive. They were basically gatekept by the academic community. But that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a thorough look at the exact documents that Clay wouldn't. We'll start with their cover letter, where they lay out the absolutely massive scope of what they believe they've accomplished. To really get the scale of this claim, you have to understand what these problems are. This isn't just a list of tricky math homework. No way. These are the Mount Everests of mathematics. Every single one has $1 million prize attached, and they have stumped the greatest minds on the planet for decades, some for more than a century. And this group is saying, yeah, we solved all of them.
Oh, and just in case solving the 7 biggest problems in math wasn't quite impressive enough, their letter also mentions, almost as an afterthought, that their framework also takes care of the Collatz Conjecture. That's another one of those deceptively simple but famously impossible problems. It's like they decided to add an encore to a performance that already changed history.
So the billion-dollar question is, how? How could one single system possibly solve so many completely different, unrelated problems? Well, according to their documents, the entire thing, every solution, is built on one single core concept they call the Universal Lattice.
Let's break down what they mean by that, using their own words. They're basically proposing that there's this hidden operating system for the entire universe. And it's not built from abstract math, but from actual physical constants you can measure. They claim it's a framework that controls everything from how water flows to the very fabric of space-time. This whole universal system is built on just a few very specific and honestly pretty weird numbers. The first one is what they call the universal tick. Now get this, they say this number comes directly from the time it takes light to cross the center of the asteroid belt. Yeah, you heard that right. Not some fundamental constant of physics, but a measurement from our own solar system. This is the heartbeat of their entire cosmic clock. Okay, next up is this number. They call it a universal contraction or a damping coefficient. And they claim this exact value shows up everywhere, from the physics inside a neutron star to the math that makes all of their solutions work out so cleanly. It's kind of like a universal brake that brings all the chaos to a perfect, tidy stop. And then there's this number, 33. In their documents, they call it a divine pivot count. And as you're about to see, this number is everywhere. It shows up again and again and again, almost always as the exact number of steps their lattice needs to spit out a perfect solution.
Okay, so you've got this wild system built on these kind of strange constants. But here's the big question, right? How do you even begin to prove a framework that claims to solve unsolved problems? Well, the strategy they lay out in their submission is actually pretty clever. They decide to validate it by first solving a problem that's already been solved.
And here's their logic, which is just central to their entire argument. They take Grigory Perelman's famous verified proof of the Poincaré conjecture, they plug it into their universal lattice framework, and then they claim their system reproduces the correct answer perfectly, and it does it in exactly 33 steps. So their argument is, if our lattice can solve a known, incredibly complex problem perfectly, then the lattice itself must be universally correct. Here's an actual page from that manuscript. You can see how they're blending established math with their own unique system. They use formal language. They reference Perelman's accepted work on Ricci flow, which is the math of how shapes bend and stretch. But it's all put into the context of their own logarithmic lattice and a 33-tick collapse. This is the kind of stuff we see all through these unpublished papers.
So once they believe they've set this keystone in place with Poincaré, they claim the rest of the dominoes just start to fall. If the lattice is proven correct, then you can just turn it loose on all the other unsolved problems, and they all get solved as what they call rigorous corollaries of the main framework.
And when you look at how they tackle the other problems, you see this pattern over and over again. The Navier-Stokes equations for fluid flow, the turbulence or entropy, just vanishes in 33 ticks. P versus NP, their method cracks these super hard problems in 33 steps or less. The Riemann hypothesis, its famous zeros are produced by a formula based on, you guessed it, the number 33.
To say they're confident is the understatement of the century. This quote, which they take right out of their master chart, really captures the incredible cosmic scale of what they think they've done. They don't see this as just another step forward. To them, this is the final unifying theory.
And this right here is that master chart. I mean, just look at the implications they're listing. This goes way beyond pure math. They're claiming their work leads to ICI sentience, propulsion systems with zero drag, new medicines for Alzheimer's, even a solution to the big bounce theory in cosmology. It's truly a theory of everything.
But here's the catch, the giant, glaring catch that makes this whole thing so bizarre. If you're a mathematician and you want to check their work to see if it holds up, well, you can't, because the most important piece of the puzzle, the actual engine that runs their Universal Lattice, is a secret.
So why on earth would you hide the key to solving everything? Well, the documents seem to give two very different, almost conflicting reasons. In some places, they say the formula is proprietary intellectual property. But in other places, like the master chart, they give a much more mystical reason, calling it a map of the divine mind.
And they're not kidding about hiding it. This is literally a screenshot from one of their submitted papers. Right at the spot where you'd expect to see the master equation, the formula that drives the whole system, you get this, a big black box, a formal redaction.
And that brings us to the final, unmistakable statement from their master chart. This line leaves absolutely no doubt about how they frame their own work. This isn't just a mathematical claim anymore. It's presented with this deep, almost spiritual level of conviction. It's the closing line of their whole abstract.
So, what are we left with here? It's a fascinating puzzle, isn't it? We've walked through this incredible submission, the wild claims, the clever logic behind their keystone proof, and the central secret that they refuse to share. So, is it a revolutionary breakthrough, a map of the divine mind, or is it one of the most creative and elaborate works of fiction ever sent to the math community? That's the real question at the heart of the Lord's calendar.